absolutely wild as Vern Gagne's All-Star Wrestling goes coast to coast and continent to continent. The greatest wrestlers in the world.
He may be an apprentice carpenter, but I guarantee you he is a seasoned ring veteran.
I've been hit with bar stools, bar rags, barmaids.
I'm talking to you.
They're scared that Hulkamania's still running wild. Oh, yeah. I got a big fat wife and 9 kids at home, and I gotta feed them.
And take a look at Jesse the Body in real life.
Open your hand once if you would.
You want to see it?
This is absolutely unbelievable. Totally, completely out of control.
He's coming in over the top. Hey! Look out!
A lookout indeed. This is AWA Unleashed. We are the preeminent #1 podcast, which means we're the best podcast dedicated to telling the stories and reliving the memories of what we consider to be the best wrestling promotion of all time, and that is the American Wrestling Association. Are we biased? Yes. Joe is biased. Mick is biased. But you know what? It's okay to be biased because it's our show, and we can do what we want.
We'll take our show and go home. You know, if you keep picking on us.
Yeah, we are.
Am I picking on you?
No, not you.
You're not used to taking. You're not used to taking a compliment.
No. See, there you go again. Not you. I'm talking about the people, the folks out there.
Oh, right.
You know, won't allow us to be biased. That's what I meant by taking the ball.
Sorry, screw those people. I thought you were insulting me, and I'm like,
I have never insulted you yet.
Oh, bullshit.
Yeah, I want positive vibes here, guys.
We are AWA Unleashed, giving shit since day one.
I
like that.
Another T-shirt idea. Oh my God! And now the dog even likes it. Boy, this is gonna be what a podcast.
It's a hell of a show we got going.
We're ready.
It's a shame if somebody actually did something good on this show.
Don't worry about that ever happening.
Why break our streak now?
I know, right? Did you get a haircut, Mick?
No, I just have the 2 strands tucked under the hat.
Oh, okay. Yep. All right. I thought you had a haircut gimmick, and I was like, wow, you look different.
Yeah, well, I feel different.
I feel with my hands.
Wow.
See you next week, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Hey, this is we're killing the podcast sooner and sooner every week. Pretty soon it's going to be an intro kill out.
Yeah.
Just play the show open. We'll come on and say thank you. Bye.
I should. Just for shits and giggles. Oh my God. Joe's drinking. Mick is Mick's not drinking it.
Water.
Yeah. Water. I don't judge. I'm disappointed that it's water, Joe.
Well, me too, but it is only 9:42. It's been sunrise for a while.
It has. We have got a fun no DQ&A today, guys. This is one of our favorite shows because we get a lot of questions, and I think most of them, Mick, directed towards you. Some of them directed towards me. It's basically you and Joe are kind of the ones that get all the questions. So we're going to get into those, and we're going to start with a tribute as well. But before we do that, we do have to get to the normal,
the shilling.
The shilling, yeah, the shilling, the gimmicks there. First of all, I do want to say that we do have a new line of merchandise at TeePublic. That's where you can get your Slick Mick cups. You can get our, it's raining in Miami merchandise. We sold some T-shirts and a couple of stickers and a mouse pad. So people are enjoying that, and I've enjoyed putting it together. I ran it by you guys and got a couple other things in the hopper, but tpublic.com user/unleashed plus right there. You can just copy that or, actually stop it and put it in your URL. It's a way to help the podcast. Also, we do have, I'm going to put this up there as well. It is a brand new, well, not brand new, but it's our Pinfall membership. We've got exclusive interviews. We've got watch-alongs. We've got our Back to Ringside, which is just something that Mick and I do every week. We just talk about the current product. It's just kind of a free-flowing conversation. That's really gone over well. It's been received, I think, really, really awesome. So I've been really, happy to do that. You get the podcast a day early, and everybody that's been a Pinfall member has enjoyed it. So if you're not, I highly recommend that you become a Pinfall member, because we enjoy putting that stuff out there. And if you guys want more, we'll continue to put more content.
Well said, Pally.
If you want more of this bullshit, give us money and we'll give you more bullshit.
That's right. Yes. All right. Before we get to the no Q&A, guys, this week we lost another. Well, just over the weekend, we lost another member of the wrestling community, not in not an AWA name, but for as much, Mick, as you and I have been talking about ECW on the back to ringside, this one kind of shocked me a little bit, because we lost the homicidal, genocidal, suicidal ECW original, Sabu.
Shocking, yeah. Joe and I were talking before we came on the air about, how much has this guy put himself through over the years, literally sacrificing his body and a lot of times his mental state for this business. It has been said, and I agree, that he gave a lot more to the business than he got back. You can't call Sabu a cult hero, because if you look at the internet, the response to his passing, the love and affection for this guy, totally overwhelming. Fearless to a fault. This guy would absolutely do anything and everything. I pulled something up on the Slick page a couple of days ago. Years back, I was at an indie show working with Sabu, and somehow or other he had hurt himself in the match and cut his elbow open, and it was bleeding pretty good. So I walk up to him in the locker room. I said, "My God, you got to take a look at that. Have the docs take a look. That doesn't look too good." And he looks at me and he says, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And he showed me all the hundreds of scars all over his body, some that were, an inch or two deep. That was Sabu. Legendary, the innovator. There will never be another one like him. Outside the ring, every conversation I had with him was cordial. He was quiet. He was protected of the gimmick. And this is a major loss.
I've long said, when people proclaim professional wrestling to be fake, I've always defended it and saying it might be predetermined, it might be exaggerated, and to a degree scripted. All you have to do is to watch a portion of one of Sabu's matches, and if you're not shocked and think that this is all fake, the punishment that he subjected himself to in the ring, there's no hope for you. Mm-hmm. As you alluded to, Mick, he put his body on the line for the business. The nephew of the original Sheik,
great call,
who is psychotic in himself. So, I mean, there's something in that gene pool, I think, and that's not a shot at the family. Just, you had two really crazy characters in the business. I was very happy that Sabu at least got, I wouldn't even call it a run, but he got his opportunity to be on the big stage with the WWE for a short term, and he deserved it. Think what you want of his extreme style of wrestling. It's tough to argue that anybody did it more extreme than Sabu. So an honor to him.
There you go.
Yeah. I was watching a video from Taz, and the Taz and Sabu rivalry with Bill Alfonso in the middle of it. And this is something we'll talk about more in our Back to Ringside when we record it tomorrow, Mick. But I will say that rivalry was legendary in ECW. And I was listening to Taz. The Taz was coming in for one shot, and he was going to put Sabu over. Sabu gave Taz more than Taz ever wanted in that first match. Sabu gave him a lot, and that helped get Taz over, and that helped Taz get a job in ECW. So Sabu really helped pave the way and bring in other names that made ECW what it was. So yeah, like you said, Joe, rest in peace, Sabu.
Yeah, and
Now he joins Melissa, his girlfriend, who passed away about a year ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Melissa Coates, and they were inseparable, and I think that really did a number on Sabu's psyche, mental health wise. But if you get a chance, and you can go to YouTube and look at the NWA Grand Slam event from Minneapolis back in 1993, Sabu and the Lightning Kid from the American Indian Center in Minneapolis. I had the honor, and I mean it was, to call that one. And it solidified who Sabu was, but it also put the Lightning Kid on the map. And that, from what I understand, is the match that got WWF's attention to Sean Waltman. So great stuff. Sabu, great guy. Rest in peace.
All right, let's get to our no DQ&A here, guys. Joe, you want to take you do the honors of asking the questions, and then I will be ready with the pictures.
That's assuming that I know how to read, but I'll give it a shot.
Hey, derp.
First one is for Mick. In the scheme of things, where would you rank your friend, Sir Oliver Humperdinck, among the greatest managers? And why didn't he manage up here in the AWA?
Very interesting. Great question. First, let me do the second part first. Once Sir Oliver was established in Florida, there's a great picture of him, and that is the late Scott Irwin, the Super Destroyer. Once Sir Oliver, or Red Sutton, as we all knew him, was established in the Florida area, he would come back once in a while to visit the state of Minnesota, but he just could not handle the winters anymore. He did have a run in WWE and a run in WCW. He did the Big Daddy Dink gimmick, which he hated, by the way. Where do I put him in the list of all-time managers? You can't put him in the AWA. He did manage a couple of times. He filled in for Sheik Adnan LKC when Adnan was unable to make a couple of dates. Beyond that, it was elsewhere. So you can't put him in the AWA greatest managers of all time. But I would say, once you get past your Heenans and maybe Heymans and Cornettes and what have you, this guy is right up there. If you look at the resume of Oliver Humperdinck, he managed a lot of big name talent. And I've said at one time he might have been the single most hated guy in the state of Florida. He was that good. He got started in 1973 as a manager. Butcher Vachon brought him up to the Canadian turf. And they gave him the name Sir Oliver Humperdinck because so many people hated the English up in that part of Canada. And they thought, well, this will get some heat. Nicest guy in the world. If you never met him and sat next to him at a bar, you were his best friend within 5 minutes. So, yeah, Sir Oliver, absolutely one of the greats, one of the charismatic characters of all time, but just not in the AWA.
And that question was from Jerry Nesbitt. I forgot to mention that. And our second question is from Mike Hathaway. This is for you as well, Mick. You've mentioned before that Roddy Piper wrestled in the AWA at one time. I don't remember that at all. Can you elaborate a little more details as to his short stint in the AWA?
Yeah, it's not surprising you don't remember it. But look at that. Look at that picture.
I didn't know that was Roddy until I started looking at the face.
Isn't
Because
that something?
you look at everything, like nothing about that speaks Roddy Piper.
This guy has enhancement talent written all over him.
Milquetoast baby face.
Oh my God. Roddy, you would not know that Roddy wrestled in the AWA because it was very early on in his career. It was sporadic, and he was brought in as enhancement talent. The next thing I know, I'm reading in some of the newsletters in the early 1970s that he's calling himself the Lean Mean Machine out in, I don't know if it was Portland or California or whatever, but it pissed me off. You know, there was only one Lean Mean Machine, and that was Bachwinkle. But Roddy Piper, yeah, early on, he did some jobs on television in the AWA, never established a foothold in this promotion, and obviously the rest is history. What a character and what a picture of Roddy. Hey, guys, he's right out of the womb at that picture.
Mick, when he did wrestle here in the AWA, was he Roddy Piper?
He was Roddy Piper.
Okay.
He was Roddy Piper, and I don't recall if he had the full Scottish kilt thing going on. I don't think so. But needless to say, blip on the radar is being generous, you know, to Roddy Piper's stint in the AWA. But look at the career. My God, one of the all-time greats.
One of my all-time favorites as far as promos go.
Yeah.
He was just so damn good.
Yep.
Question 3, another one for you, Mick, is from Glenn Turchik. He says that he saw a few days ago that you had a poll on your wrestling page asking if people thought Charlotte Flair should be considered an all-time great. Personally, he thinks that she's good, but not a legend, and his favorite is the one and only Medusa. He wants to have us give us a consensus opinion on her and asked for, and you shall receive, Glenn, a picture of Medusa.
Look at the deuce. So that's going about 38 years ago, Joe, 39 years ago.
Yeah, don't remind me.
As quickly as far as Charlotte Flair is concerned, I agree with his assessment. I think Charlotte is very good. You know, certainly she's gotten the push that she deserves in the WWE. She's got her detractors, and I think with good reason. You know, maybe it's attitude. A lot of what Charlotte does is a one-trick pony. Medusa, on the other hand, Joe, you and I had the opportunity to work with her early on. She was green as grass. Came into the AWA. She'll be the first to admit it. But with the help of Sherry Martel, she developed real quickly. In my opinion, you're looking at one of the all-time greats in the history of the business. And I don't think there's any comparison, as far as I'm concerned, between her and Charlotte Flair.
I agree with that assessment, both for Charlotte and Deuce. And you're right. When she first came, she was green as hell. I remember those days. And she was nervous as hell getting in, doing a match. But she caught on quickly, and the rest is history. You know, she went from green and scared to, in at least 2/3 here on screen, say that she is one of the all-time greats, and I will give that to her. But I always have to say this. Different time, different era. Does Charlotte do things that Medusa didn't? Yeah, but wrestling is different from the 80s and 90s today than it was from the 80s and 90s. So put things in a perspective, but for what she did during her time, no doubt Deuce is one of the all-time greats.
My first real introduction, I mean, I remember seeing Medusa in the AWA. I don't really remember a lot, but my first experience with her was Alundra Blaze, that run in the WWF. And I could tell that she was good, but kind of like what you guys were saying, women's wrestling, even back then, was just kind of a novelty. Like, you put the women's championship on the match. Now the women are being featured at the beginning, in the middle, at the end of the show. I think kind of what Joe said, for what she did in her era and at her time, and kind of take the mental from Sherry to Medusa. I have to put her up there with some of the best that I've seen. But again, that's just because she was kind of the measuring stick of when I first remember watching women's wrestling.
The first time I saw Medusa wrestle was at Roper's in Fridley, of all places, in front of about 150 people. And basically what she did was brawl with her opponent on the outside. Had kind of a little bit of an edge to her. I think she thought at the time that she was a little bit better than she was. But my God, look at the resume all over the world. Medusa is the real deal.
And legendary matches with Bull Nakano. Do yourself a favor and take a look at some of those matches from Japan. Incredible. I still remember the young Deuce, and when she was gone for a while and she came back and walked into the control room, and shall we just say that a couple of things changed about her.
What are you doing?
Is that who you still? Joe stole the gimmick from somebody. Aha! Gimmick infringement.
Yeah,
a gimmick infringement, and I think we are much safer putting out a nipple T-shirt with Joe's picture on it than we would do with Deuce in this day and age. But nonetheless,
yeah,
free the nipple.
Love you, Deuce.
free the nipple. Moving on.
Question number 4, Chris. This one is for you, and it's from Double T, Terrible Tim Lasco.
Terrible Tim.
He has heard you mention how Ox Baker had the perfect look for a 1970s heel. Big and scary, and Tim agrees with you. He saw him in Chicago when he was a kid, and he was like a monster to Tim. Why didn't he make a bigger impact in the AWA?
Good question, because I don't know. Like, you look at that. I loved the look for Ox Baker between the eyebrows, the Fu Manchu, like the look, yeah, kind of like you, Terrible Tim. It scares me. Like, I look at him and I don't want the smoke, right? I am going the other way. I am not vaping. I am not smoking. I am running the other way. I am calling the fire department. I do not want the smoke from Ox Baker. Some people run up the chimney. I'm running away. So I don't know why. Was it just the personnel, that type of heel just didn't work for Vern back in the 70s, guys?
I think and maybe Joe, you'll agree with this. The 1970s AWA roster was loaded. I mean, my God, you go back to the early 70s when Ox came in, and you had Bachwinkle Stevens, Wahoo, Billy Robinson, Vern Gagne. I mean, where are you going to put him? He was in for a very short run. He did a lot of times he would do the last match on a TV show and then rant and rave because he was getting cut off from his allotted interview time because the show was winding up. The fans got to see Ox late 80s, 1990
Wasn't
AWA.
the same.
Oh my God, not even the
broken
man
down guy.
Walk. He could not even walk.
It made me sad. It made me sad. It made me sad to see it.
Yeah. But I agree with everybody. I mean, talk about your absolute blueprint for a wrestling heel, especially back in the 1970s. It wasn't that Ox didn't make money in this business, because he was legendary and worked extensively for Dick the Bruiser, worked for Bob Luce up in Chicago, as the letter writer said. One time, if you get a chance to see the Ox's appearance on The Price is Right many years ago as the contestant, when they pull him out of the audience, and this guy is like a kid in the candy store. My name is Douglas. You know, it was just, is this the same guy? But yeah, legendary Ox Baker. And I mentioned at Cauliflower Alley, my God, when Ox was in the room, you could go down the hall, down the strip, and you'd still hear him from that distance. Wonderful, wonderful personality.
Yeah, had the pleasure of working with Ox near the end of the AWA and certainly near the end of his career. Him walking out to the ring was painful to watch, and oftentimes there was a chair for him so that he could be sitting ringside rather than pounding on the mat and doing the manager gimmick. Scary as hell, but pleasant and courteous and a gentleman behind the scenes. And yeah, he scared the shit out of me as well. Going even back to his days, if I'm not mistaken, was he not in the original Mad Max movie?
I believe, yeah, I think he was.
He was a character in there, and I remember seeing him in there and thinking, wow, they really cast this one well, because Ox had that look. Can you imagine? Picture yourself being one of his grandchildren and and bouncing on the knee of your grandfather and looking at the face that is bouncing you. I don't think the kid would have had any constipation issues, because I think I would have shit my pants as well. But I will say this, back to the 70s. You were spot on, Mick, about your assessment, but I'll add one other caveat to that. You've already got Bobby the Brain Heenan as a heel manager, and you already have Sheik Adnan LKC as a heel manager. There just wasn't a spot on the roster for a third heel manager to begin with, even though Ox was still wrestling. But you couldn't bring him in as a wrestler. He was already entrenched and very successful in the territories he was in. It just didn't mesh. It just didn't fit.
All righty.
Okay. Moving on to our next one. And I think this is a general statement for a question from all of us, and it's from Kelly O'Hare. Have midget wrestlers completely been shut out of the national wrestling landscape? That was question one. Number two, and was there really an AWA wrestler named Little Beaver? Sounds like a performer at a strip club.
Ladies and gentlemen, hitting the stage, Little Beaver.
Couple
come on, who doesn't love a Little Beaver to kick off?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, yeah.
There's your Little Beaver right there.
I love that picture. Look at that. That's Little Beaver on the right of your screen. He's tossing Sky low. Now, you notice Sky's flying saucer-like head. Sky appears to be looking at the referee and comparing bald heads at this point mid-flight. I just think this is, imagine taking a bump like that. Good God. Yeah, they have been kind of effectively shut out from the national scene. As opposed to the women wrestlers who, made tremendous advances and all of a sudden are main eventing cards. The midgets were really, they were kind of pushed to the side. You've got the micro wrestling organizations and, where the midget toss or bowling or whatever it is.
Yeah, I think it's very confined to their to their traveling company. I don't know that it's ever going to be a part of a major promotion or even any indie show. I think that time has passed.
Well said. Maybe because it's not PC. I think that's part of it. But yeah, they're doing okay on the circuit that they work. I think they're very happy. I was going to say that, a major wrestling promotion wouldn't necessarily want to put them on as comic relief. But then when you see some of the stuff that's out there today, the midgets would fit right in with the comic relief. But yeah, absolutely. Lost art, Little Beaver, Little Bruiser, Sky Low. It's a lost art.
Yeah, the last little person that I remember in any mainstream was Hornswoggle.
Yeah,
and he was just he wrestled, but it wasn't in a midget match. He was ringside or just the comic foil. A case could also be made for Spike Dudley, although Spike was a little bigger. He was not a midget, but Spike was in there for a similar reason. But she brings up a good point. I would really love to see a midget angle incorporated somehow. You still got to do all of their gimmicks, piling on the referee, and that was just all fun. And it did just let you sit back and chuckle for 10 minutes during whether it was a live match or in the arena. I miss the midgets.
Nobody got more out of the midget piling on pop than referee Marty Miller. When Marty was in there, Marty was, probably about 5'1" himself, but they would just one after another, they would do the spot. One midget would toss another one, and then they would change places and jump on Marty. And it was classic stuff from a different era.
Yeah,
No doubt.
Absolutely. All right, go ahead, Joe.
Question number 6 is from Charlie Isaacs. Now, before I read the question, I'm not going to make any commentary because there are answers that I could share with it, but Mick, I'm sure you will cover it. The first question, or I guess it's only one question, but Charlie says, I know the Crusher had a cousin in the business, Dick the Bruiser, and a son that refereed Larry Lazowski. But I heard that he also had a brother that was a wrestler. Can you guys verify? Love your show. Keep up the outstanding work. Mick, let's give Charlie the facts.
Charlie, love you, buddy. However, the picture that you're seeing right there of the Crusher and his brother, Stan Lasowski, no, they were not real brothers. Hard to believe in the world of wrestling that happens sometimes, that there's kayfabe brothers. That is Stan Hollick. Stan also wrestled as one half of the Nielsen brothers, Stan Nielsen. So Crusher and Stan Hollick, Stan Lasowski, no, they were not real brothers. The Crusher and Dick the Bruiser.
Couldn't he have been adopted? I mean, couldn't he have been adopted, though? I mean, you don't have to be biological. You could be brothers if you were adopted. I mean,
you're probably going to light up the internet with that question now. Good going.
Hey, families are mixed. Families are blended. Families are not DNA.
So was he adopted into the Lazowski family or into the Nielsen family?
There you go. There you go. See, now you opened up a can of worms. See, you just do what you did. You
mind melt.
You pop in every half an hour, and then you cause controversy.
Son of a bitch! Screwed it up again.
The Crusher and Dick the Bruiser were not cousins. The only one that we would agree, the consensus is that Larry Lasowski was Crusher's son. But as far as his brother Stan, nip, and his cousin Dick the Bruiser, So there you go.
Sort of a sidebar question or note here. I think I've asked you this before, but either of you two thinking about going down to Crusher Fest this year?
I thought about it. And then I kind of looked at it a little bit, and I probably won't go just because it's changed from what it originally was. I mentioned this before. It really was a celebration of Crusher when it first came out. Great idea, great intention. I think it's kind of become more of a, just a weekend party. So I probably won't go, although, hey, we've been invited, maybe if they put us front and center, let us do a podcast, paid us about $600-700 a piece. We would go.
You added too many zeros to the end of it and one too many digits, but yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, and for me now, I've got some MLB duties with the Twins, so I have, I have to work. But hey. Yeah.
Our next question is from Al Vincent, and this is for you as well, Mick. As one of the few guys alive who is as old as me, excuse me, I had a little something in my throat. Yeah, and I'm getting there, Mick. Don't worry. I remember a guy from way back, a bad guy named.
I like how you said way. How many A's is in way?
Seriously, enough. Just read the question, will you? I mean, at my age, I could go any minute.
Like performance art? What? I'm pretending I'm a color commentator and blowing bullshit up people's ass.
Go ahead. Read the question.
Okay, so now I got to read it again. I remember a guy from way back when Mick was a teenager. A guy named Rocky Hamilton.
Oh.
What can the Slick One tell us about him? In all seriousness, you guys are the perfect trio for this pod. I'll question that, but let's get on to Rocky Hamilton from way back.
What was the questioner's name?
From
Al Vincent.
See, you need to go back and do the voiceover, ladies and gentlemen. From way back, here's Tom. What's his name? Rocky Hamilton. Rocky Hamilton from way back. Where's way back on the map? Is that next to Parts Unknown?
Right next to Parts Unknown, down the street from Broadway and Kayfabe, the intersection. At any rate, Al, you prick. Rocky Hamilton. First of all, there's some lineage with Rocky Hamilton. His brother was Jody Hamilton, one half of the masked assassins in the Georgia area. He is also, or was, the uncle to referee Nick Patrick, Joe Hamilton Jr. So there's wrestling lineage there. Rocky Hamilton, great heel, wrestled all over the country using the name the Missouri Mauler. Wrestled here in the AWA in the mid-1960s, primarily feuding with the Crusher. And their feud culminated in a Missouri-style match, which Rocky had asked for. This is a variation on a death match. The rules were not quite as severe. The loser of the match had to ride out of the auditorium on a mule. And Rocky Hamilton, as opposed to people riding on Chupik, where you're riding a jackass out of the arena. But, well,
That's pretty good.
You did that too well, as a matter of fact.
It's my third language.
Yeah. Rocky Hamilton was a great heel and legendary in the business. But yeah, he will be remembered by some fans as riding out of the auditorium on a mule. There you go.
My wife is from Missouri. I lived in Missouri for several years. I could tell you nothing encapsulates the state of Missouri like riding out of a building on a mule. That encapsulates pretty much everything about Missouri.
Yeah, I think it really does.
And I love Missouri.
But then what do I know, Chris? That was way back.
You realize that the embellishing on these questions is only going to increase now.
Let's move on.
Yeah, let's do this. Hey, Joe, this one's for you. You had an opportunity to work with the Freebirds back in the AWA days. Their reputation preceded them, and Danny Redmond was surprised that Vern would kind of book such talent. What can you tell Danny about your experience with the Birds?
So, Denny, the Freebirds came in not directly into the AWA as much as they were a part of Pro Wrestling USA. And they sort of migrated, if you will, to become more of the mainstays of.
I see what you did there. Well done. Well done. So they only flew up north, during the summertime? Is that the only time that they were booked?
Exactly.
Okay,
No, they
were
were here in the winter and they hated it.
Oh, okay. Well,
I got it, Chris, with the migration. I got that part.
You like that? Well, I mean, hey, it makes sense to go to Bad Street, Atlanta, GA, because it is the baddest street in the whole USA.
Yeah.
It's nasty and hot because further down the block you got the best.
Denny, you are correct. Years earlier, I don't know that Vern would have brought the Freebirds in. They weren't his style, I guess, or a cup of tea, but you have to consider the time. The migration of AWA talent leaving, and the Freebirds, they were as hot as a tag team or as a six-man tag team could get during the time. Incredible feuds with the Von Erichs down in WCCW, and they had a pretty successfully hated run. And when I say hated run, because they were they were definitely hated. They were heels. As far as the experiences with the Birds, that picture that we had up there of them, yeah, pretty much summarizes the Freebirds. They were indeed very proud Southern rednecks, hence their not Union Jack, their Southern Confederate flag that they waved around proudly. Buddy Roberts, his name migrated over to Buddy Jack Roberts. Now, you could come up with a couple of explanations as to why it was Buddy Jack Roberts, but I think and Slash know that it was because of his very dear, close personal friend, Jack Daniels. The Freebirds lived hard. Buddy left us early. Bam Bam Gordy left us early. Michael Hayes is still around and as a road agent. I still think he's with the WWE.
Yeah, I think he is, yeah.
As a road agent. But what you saw of the Freebirds on your screen was what you got with the Freebirds off screen times 10.
So the Freebirds kind of had the Freebirds for me are Buddy Roberts, Michael Hayes, and Terry Gordy. But Jimmy Garvin, part of the Freebirds later on, WCW, I know that Jimmy Garvin and Steve Regal had their tag team here. Did Jimmy Garvin ever work in the cities as a member of the Freebirds?
I don't think no, he did not. I mean, there was the loose association, with Michael Hayes and what have you, but I don't think he was ever just called a Freebird because he had established himself here already as Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin. So,
yeah, I was just wondering if he kind of, took the Freebird gimmick, if he ever kind of came back up and worked as a member of the Freebirds.
No, the only real association came when the Freebirds interfered in the tag team championship match, Garvin and Regal against the Road Warriors.
Yep.
And I remember it so well because Garvin and Regal, that was the first interviews that I ever did working for the AWA. But that was really the only dastardly connection between Freebirds and Gorgeous Jimmy Garvin, at least here in the AWA.
Interesting point too. He asked, why would Vern bring these guys in? You got to remember, this is a time when Vern is really throwing to see what's going to stick on the wall. He's bringing in Brody. He's bringing in Hanson. These guys that are legendary rebels. Yep. And he also brought in the Freebirds. Now, I don't know if Greg had his ear or if just a look at the national landscape, who was getting over in other territories. But yeah, it was out of character for Vern Gagne to bring in the guys that could not be handled easily.
Correct.
There we go.
Okay. Next question is for you, Chris. It's from Juanita Voigt. He isn't necessarily a guy you would associate with the AWA, but he has Midwestern roots. How about Colt Boom Boom Cabana as a guest? I've never heard him called Boom Boom Cabana.
Boom Boom Colt Cabana, boom boom. Colt Cabana, boom. I would love to have Colt as a guest on the podcast. And I think it's very much possible. It's just a matter of working it out with his schedule. A couple of years ago, down in Waterloo, actually, Colt was doing a live Art of Wrestling, because Colt Cabana is really the pioneer of wrestling podcasting.
Yeah.
I think we could say that, because the Art of Wrestling was really kind of the one that kind of set everything in motion. I know people talk about the Conrad Thompson and Bruce Pritchard and Eric Bischoff. That's great, but Colt Cabana really got everything started. Mick was supposed to be a guest on that, but unfortunately, just didn't work out at that point. I would love to get him on. This is the first time that I met Colt. This was back at WrestleMania 31 in San Jose. That's my buddy Ryan on the left, my buddy Jerry, Colt, my buddy Nate, and me. And we were not going to be heathenish, but Colt Cabana being the positive influence on us, he made us give everybody the middle finger. But I would love to have Colt Cabana on, and I think it's very, very possible. In fact, I could say it's probably.
I'm just jealous I wasn't in the picture.
We could Photoshop you in.
Yeah, I know.
No, don't, please. As far as Colt being, he wants to be on the show. As a matter of fact, he sent me a message and said, I didn't wrestle for the AWA, but man, I grew up in AWA territory. I love the history. I know enough about it. I'd love to be on the show.
Colt doesn't have to pitch himself to us. Okay,
absolutely.
Colt.
Yep.
Well, let's get him on. Let's get him on.
Absolutely.
One of the funniest, if you've never, my Colt Cabana story. We were at WrestleCon in Dallas in 2015, and we were sitting ringside. And have you guys ever seen Jake Manning, the Man Scout?
Yeah, sure.
He's got a Boy Scout gimmick with really tight shorts, and he's sitting there and he wrestles in these really tight shorts. We're like, who wears short shorts? Clap, 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 clap. Who wears short? And Colt took it. We're like, who wears short shorts? He wears short shorts. And Colt he's just got such a connection with the audience. If there's anybody that I know I'm ever going to get an entertaining match from or an entertaining show, it's Colt Cabana. And yes, I'm a Colt Cabana mark. No question at all. So,
he's a genius. He is an absolute genius. He knows this business. He's part of that Steel Domain alumni. And as you said, one of the funniest guys ever, down to earth. Love Scotty. Let's get him on the show.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's do it. All right, Joe.
Moving on. Number 10 is from Larry Gethard. Absolutely love the uniqueness of the show, guys. The flashbacks to my childhood are priceless.
Thank you.
Question for all, although Mick would probably have the best shot. Did Nick Bachwinkle use any other ring names during his career?
Yeah, he did. With a name like Bachwinkle, you figured that, Mick or Nick might use an alter ego once in a while. He wrestled as the White Phantom, Masked Man in Omaha, and also I believe is Nick Bach in some areas. But this kills me. He's in Cleveland and he's using the name Roy Diamond. Okay, but the newspaper article identifies him. You go into paragraph 2, it's exposing who the guy is and that he's the son of Warren Bachwinkle. I mean, why bother? Why bother at this point?
They were breaking kayfabe back in the day.
Oh my God! I mean, it's just what I don't get it. The funny part about this is that I believe the promoter was Pedro Martinez, or maybe not, but whoever the promoter was.
The old Red Sox picture?
Not that guy.
Okay.
This guy threw a curveball at payoff time. I remember Nick said to the promoter, whoever it was, him or what. So I'm Roy Diamond tonight. He says, I don't give a shit what you call me. You can call me Mickey Mouse as long as you pay me at the end of the night. So that was Nick's philosophy. But I think this is just classic. I mean, why don't they take a mask guy and say, Dick Beyer, who will be wrestling under the mask tonight, is Dr. X? What is the point? But yeah, Nick did use a couple of couple of other monikers.
I just want to clarify something. Chris, can you put that magazine clip up again, or the newspaper clip? I just want to clarify something once and for all. The spelling of Bachwinkle's last name. Now, they have it as L-E. Oftentimes, in fact, when I did the graphics, it was E-L. Which one was it, Nick? Which one is the official, legal spelling of his name?
E-L.
Thank you.
Is the official, and I never saw Nick sign an autograph L-E, to my knowledge. But Warren Bachwinkle, Nick Bachwinkle, it was E-L. There you go.
Thank you. It drives me nuts when I see L-E or Vern spelled without an E. It's anyway. Moving on.
Yeah.
Rich Gross has a question for the entire crew. He says, I really enjoyed the show about the legendary badasses. Question: shouldn't Big Bad Bobby Duncan been on the list? Seems like a no-nonsense guy you wouldn't want to mess around with.
Joe, I know that when you submitted your ideas, Bobby was on there. We kind of had to whittle it down time-wise.
Yep.
But I think the description there of Bobby Duncan as a no-nonsense guy, there was nothing flashy about Bobby Duncan. This was a big MFer and no nonsense, one of those West Texas guys. Bobby Duncan, of course, teaming up with Blackjack Lanza up here as a part of the Heenan family. I think Bobby is still around. He has removed himself from the business, but I would agree. Old school, hard knocks, straight ahead, no bullshit. Bobby Duncan, one of the badasses of the AWA.
We've brought up several times on this show about how a wrestler is totally different with their gimmick than what they are in real life. Mad Dog is one of those. Baron von Raschke is another one. Big Bad Bobby Duncan is not. Bobby Duncan is a Southern ranch hand, cowboy, badass Southern boy still to this day. If you talk with him or have the pleasure of talking with him, chances are pretty good he's got about a third to a half a tin of Copenhagen in his lip, and he is exactly what you saw on screen. And Lee, he should have been on that list as I submitted my inquiries to Mick. But we had so many. I'm sure there's a couple more that we may have missed.
Just a quick Bobby Duncan story, and I've told this before. The air host in Chicago, after an AWA show, probably 1976, Bobby is playing pool with somebody, and a young lady sees that Bobby has a bottle of beer sitting next to him. She says, "Is that your beer?" Yes, ma'am. Would you mind if I took a sip? She was kind of inebriated going in. Bobby says, "Sure, go ahead," and he winks at the guy he's playing billiards with. And Bobby had spit a chaw of tobacco into the beer bottle. And this poor gal didn't just take a sip. She took a swig. And needless to say,
You're saying that she swallowed.
Oh, wow. Well, she did swallow, and I'm not sure she ever swallowed again. That was, I looked at this. I thought, oh, dear God. She turned as red as a stop sign and then green as a pickle. And, that air host in Chicago. Hot and cold running rats.
Chris Candido from ECW was known as No Gimmicks Needed. I feel like Bobby Duncan could have been the first no gimmick needed, because kind of like what you said, Joe, what you saw is what you got.
Yeah. No nonsense, tough guy, Bobby Duncan.
Our next question, and I'm Lee, I'm going to pronounce your name as it is pronounced in Polish. Lee Wolinski. One of my favorites of all time is Dr. X. My question is, why didn't he use the name The Destroyer when he came into the AWA in the late 1960s?
Great Great question. I believe he started the Destroyer gimmick in 1962. So he already had 5 years established as the Destroyer before he came into the AWA. You see a program, I'll digress for a second. This program actually is from Chicago. So this was an AWA show. He wrestled as the Destroyer in the Chicago area. He also wrestled as Dr. X in the Chicago area. And it may have been on the same card, believe it or not. I know wrestling fans are a pretty perceptive bunch, but you change from a black mask to a white mask, they don't know who the hell you are. I think that's what happened. So he's hey, I'm getting more Shire-like by the day here. But
colored mask and they have no idea who it is.
The reason that I'm told that he came in as Dr. X was because he knew eventually he was going to be unmasked. And he was unmasked here in 1970 as Dick Beyer, but he was using Dr. X. I don't think he wanted the Destroyer to be unmasked anytime soon because he was going to continue wrestling around the world as the Destroyer, even when the Dr. X gimmick was up. So there you go.
And of course, he continued to wear that mask, I think, right up until his death every time he made a public appearance.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Cauliflower Alley Club, he's playing cribbage, he's eating, he's drinking, whatever it is. He's got that hood on, which prompted Larry Hennig to say, Dick, take the mask off. It's over. So, oh, God. The brotherhood of the business.
Oh, my God. I love that. Oh, that tickled me. That tickled me. Well done.
Chris, next one is for you. It's from Christine Anderhoff. Now that she is no longer a WWE an employee, and presumably before she gets hired somewhere else, can you use your in to get Shaina Brasler on the show? In my opinion, she is the real deal in a world of cookie cutters.
Yeah, Shaina's a special individual. She is absolutely one of the coolest people that I have ever met. And here's a picture of me and Shaina. This is when I was working at KWSN in Sioux Falls, and a little bit longer hair, but there's Shaina. You can tell she hasn't changed at all. Like, she is just as badass now. I texted her a couple of times, and I don't see any reason. I mean, I don't know what her future holds. I kind of have an idea, but I don't know what her future holds. I think if there's a time that we could get her, I know that if she could work it into her schedule, she would have no problem. She would have no problem. Like, she is a very down to earth, but don't fuck with her sort of individual. And the funny thing about that t-shirt, that's a Young Buck shirt that I got back at WrestleMania 31. The funny thing is, I'm wearing the same shirt. I'm wearing the same shirt as I am that picture with Shaina.
Hasn't been washed
10
since.
years later. 10 years later, Tubbsy. And you're still fitting into the shirt. Wow.
Well, it's gone from a large to a schmedium, but
I see. Wow.
I still put it on.
I got to tell you something about Shaina. I don't know which wrestler it was, but one of the WWE male wrestlers was asked, name the 5 people you would want on your side in a bar fight, and Shaina was one of them.
Yeah.
And oh God, I love this.
Look at that. That's our boy Skip.
That is Shaina's dad, Skip.
I love Skip. Skip is God. Skip's a good dude too. Like, that's a good family. I'm biased, but that's a good family.
Wonderful, wonderful family. Skip is so loyal to this show. And I have a feeling that right after this picture was taken, Shaina twisted her dad in knots. That would be my guess. But, oh, God, would it be great to get Shaina on board. You know, she's not going to be a free agent very long.
No.
She'll be hired by somebody, as she should be. In this world of cookie cutters, yeah, Shayna Baszler is the real thing.
And if you're a pinfall member, by the way, we talked about this on our Back to Ringside. I have an idea of where she is going to land and why she is going to land there. And if you've caught our last Back to Ringside for pinfall subscribers, you're going to know exactly where and why and how. And I don't say I know anything. I know nothing. I'm connecting the dots from what I know. Let me say that.
I take your word as gospel. I mean, once you open your mouth, everything that comes, well, not all. Yeah. Anyway, next question.
The next question, and I just got a comment. When you provide your full name or three names, there's something. There's a tie-in to serial killers. It's always Mark David Chapman, or there's always three names except for Sirhan Sirhan.
And William Gacy.
William Wayne Gacy was how when the media would always present it, they'd always do the three names. I bring that up.
Harvey Oswald.
Exactly. And I bring that up because Matthew David Brown, don't be a serial killer, asks, I don't know if you guys have ever done a show on full-scale riots in the AWA over the years, but back in the kayfabe days, how did promoters deal with unruly fans who truly believed?
That's a good question. I like that question. I like that question.
Great question.
Good question.
They were hauled out of the arena. I mean, I'm going back even to the Minneapolis auditorium days. This, I put this up. This is a promoter in Columbus, Georgia, wrestling program. I want you to read this, talking about fans who throw things in the ring. You're a baby. You should be in a crib. You should be using a rattle against the bars. That boy, if that isn't laying the law down, you know, they could have put on there, you know, where you're going to be arrested, you're going to be this or that. No, you're a baby.
You can call people a lot of things, but don't call them a baby.
Don't call them a baby. They belong in a playpen, which I guess would be the equivalent of a cage match of some type. But promoters would literally, it was over for you. I mean, there were full-scale riots, especially in the southern part of the United States, and I'm not denigrating them. I'm not pigeonholing them, because they happened in Chicago. They happened in New York. Riots all over the place. This was an era of total kayfabe. Heels were heels. They were despicable. Wrestling knew no boundaries as far as playing a racist card, whatever it might be. And it was the real deal. A lot of times the cops got involved and people were hauled off to the local jails right and left. It was pretty terrifying scene. I remember Roddy Piper, even into the 1980s, Roddy was stabbed after a match. Ole Anderson was stabbed after a match. So a different era, different time.
Brings up a question. In today's politically charged world and division, if kayfabe was still around, do you think that we would have many more sad situations of stabbings or shootings or brawls in the arenas? I mean, it's been a long time since I've heard of a situation like that in the business.
You know, that's an interesting question, Joe, because
I think security would be a little more on lockdown.
Yeah.
I mean, people would. I think you'd still have more people rushing the ring, even like we saw into the mid 90s.
Yeah.
But you're still going to have nincompoops and nimrods. But I think security would shut that stuff down with all of the, metal detectors and X-rays and everything going through.
Not only that, but TV wrestling is such a closed-off environment. House shows are a little bit more flexible,
and they don't even run many house shows anymore.
No, they don't.
I don't even think they do.
No, and you see Chris, like a guy like Seth Rollins getting attacked on the stage, Bret Hart at the Hall of Fame induction. where these loose cannons somehow manage to break through. It is a different time, Joe. Even going back to Sheik Adnan and Sergeant Slaughter, when the heat was so intense that they had to drop the gimmick because they were getting death threats. And then you think of Muhammad Hassan, he had to drop his gimmick as well. It's still out there. They're really protective, but it's such a closed off environment right now. I don't think that you're going to have too many riots. Maybe it's some indie shows someplace, but I think on the national stage, it's different times.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Question 16 from Randy Kitzman. Whatever happened to Ricky Rice?
First of all, I love Randy Kitzman. Randy goes back all the way to those Ropers and Fridley's days. Great, great guy, great wrestling fan. As far as what happened with Ricky Rice, and Joe, you worked with Ricky towards the tail end of his run in the business. I believe the last time, or one of the last times I saw Ricky, he was wrestling in Florida. I was down there for a TV taping with the IWA. I want to say he wrestled Dean Malenko on that show. Ricky was tremendously over in the PWA area as Ricky the Prophet Rice, kind of this lunatic, lovable lunatic for Eddie Sharkey's promotion. Then, of course, he was one of the top guns, teaming up with Derek Dukes in the AWA. I don't know what happened to Ricky Rice. I've heard different stories. He went to school, he went to college, he got into a different line of work. His wife didn't want him around the business anymore. Great guy, but I have no insight as to where he is right now.
I don't either. I've not heard or seen hide or hair of him since, I guess, 1990.
Yeah.
Good talent, could work well in the ring. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, one of those guys just kind of dropped through the trapdoor of the wrestling business.
Yeah.
Great guy, though.
Okay, we got a couple more questions here. I know we're running a little long. This one is from Ed Bailey. I know you guys are all animal lovers. Was there ever any real live animal on an AWA card besides Victor the Bear?
Great question. If you're not including Bulldog, Bob Brown, Mad Dog, Vachon, Tiger, Jack Pesek, whatever.
Puppy Dog Pelican.
Yeah, Puppy Dog, Moose Morowski. If you're talking about, can we get Victor's picture up there first of all, Chris? The legendary Victor the Bear. Have we got a photograph of the old Vic? There he is. He's riding a scooter there, Victor the Bear. Came into the mini. I don't know how many Victor the Bears there were. Like Lassie, there may have been more than one. There was Terrible Ted, was a wrestling bear. This podcast is really, right gone to the zoo. Victor the Bear, of course, came in and wrestled Harley Race and Dr. X here in the AWA area. Always had that bottle of Coca-Cola when he would inevitably win the match by disqualification because they punched the bear in the nose, which led the Bears manager, Tuffy Truesdale, to remove the muzzle, at which point the heels bailed out of the ring. There actually was there was a proposed secondary animal coming into the AWA back then. And Chris, if we could get the photograph, do we have that secondary animal right there? You might not be aware of this. This is Chupik the chinchilla. This was a proposed idea, or Choops the chinchilla. This was a proposed idea in the AWA, but there was such a shortage, pardon the pun, of chinchillas at the time that they could not bring in Choops the chinchilla, which I understand he actually held some regional championships around the country. Choops the chinchilla.
You got to get the name right. It's a Choopchilla.
Choopchilla. Yeah. The early luchador, Choopchilla.
Yeah, and I think they called him by.
Yeah, God, that goes way back.
Give me a.
Hey, Joe's wife still calls him that way, around about midnight. But yeah,
Midnight? Shit, that's assuming I'm awake that
well,
way.
yeah, midnight. Not since 1992. But anyway, yeah, there you go. A couple of animals in the AWA.
Well, he used to hang out with the Midnight Rocker, but he's no more like a 9 o'clock rocker at this point.
9 o'clock. Yeah, 9 o'clock old cocker actually is probably the way it goes.
We shall see in Iowa.
Oh, hey, I've seen you at the bowling alley, in St. Croix Falls or whatever, pounding down pizza and gummies and beer and everything else. All at once. You and the guy that was cleaning the table.
I have to.
Yeah.
I need somebody to help me clean the tables in Waterloo. So
they were dirty,
guy.
Chris, and you had a keen eye for the specks of dust on the table, and damn it, you put your foot down and no nonsense, Chris Tubbs.
I'm a team player.
Have we got one more?
Yes, we do.
Final question is from Ted Yates. Mick mentioned a guy named Happy Humphrey on a recent show and said he weighed over 800 pounds. Now, I know this is wrestling and all, and that was probably about a 400-pound exaggeration. But do you have any pictures of him?
I believe we do.
Surprisingly, I think we do.
There he is. That's Happy Humphrey. They built him at about 840. Not the time that he got into the ring. They built him at 840 pounds. He actually wrestled Haystack Calhoun one-on-one. So you had over a half ton of people in the ring at that point. The thing that pisses me off about Happy Humphrey, those are my gym shorts that the man is wearing right there. And you can see they're a little tight on Happy Humphrey. Lincoln Junior High School, that was my gym shorts before I, went out and played, pom-pom pull away or whatever the fuck we did back then. But yeah, that's Happy Humphrey. And that's not Chupik's shower curtain. That is not Chris Tubbs's bed sheet. Those are my shorts, and damn it, I want them back. They got to be in some museum somewhere.
Well, a little known fact about Happy Humphrey is that he is very well known as being the first 800-pound luchador because he moved around that ring like a cat. If you ever saw him do a kip-up or a back handspring and then go over the rope and land on the first 14 rows of the audience, it was something to behold. I'm just telling you.
No, it really was. And like a tornado, he wiped out, several rows of ringsiders at one point. I believe, he when Happy Humphrey got into a 20 by 20 ring, 20 by 20, it wound up being 1 by 1 by the time you went from rope to rope. Happy Humphrey and a kip-up, that is like you, Chupik, and sobriety. It just,
I think I'm a drunk.
Well, I think that I do have a picture of, when I've actually seen Happy Humphrey when he was doing his luchador stuff. Look at us. Look at us. We're looking at Happy Humphrey. We're like, oh my God, see?
Was this before the moment of impact, Chris?
Yeah.
Little did they know they were getting wiped out within the next 3 seconds.
We seen him coming. He went over us.
Oh,
he went over us.
Good Lord. Honest to God, that's like somebody spotted me at a buffet, and they're standing behind me wondering if there's going to be anything left. That is what a great picture. What a great picture. Happy Humphrey, folks, 840 pounds at minimum.
Wow.
I want my shorts back.
Well,
they'd be too small for you now.
Well, maybe one of your shout outs can get you your shorts back. Maybe they can be your shorts partner.
Great. Wonderful.
That didn't sound any better coming out of my mouth, but we'll do the shout outs and take it home.
All right. Shout out. Mike Lardy, a new follower of ours, great AWA fan from way back. You like John Gordon there. He has been so supportive of our efforts and loves the old school stuff. I wanted to give him a shout out
Is it Mike?
He's good people, and he's going to be around for a while. So shout out to you, Steve.
And my blind dart throw shout out of the week goes to Paul Coltgen. Hope I pronounced your last name right. Paul wrote us a nice email telling us how much he loved the show and how he remembers watching the old AWA in the 1970s with his grandfather and how he became hooked. So similar story as myself. As soon as I started watching it, my grandparents were still over in Poland, so I didn't unfortunately have that luxury. But yeah, it didn't take much as a young kid to get hooked on the AWA back in its day. So Paul Coltgen, the shout outs for you.
And mine is Jake Hamar. He's a Patreon member. He's a follower of ours on Instagram. If you're on the gram, AWA Unleashed. And he's got some ideas to help some creative things. So we're going to shoot some ideas back and forth. But Jake, you are the shout out this week. And that pretty much does it. If you want to become a pinfall member, $4.99 a month. Well worth the money. You get this. You get all of our exclusive watch-alongs, which is Mystery Science Theater 3000 times wrestling. You get our Back to Ringside. You get exclusive interviews. You get this a day early. A lot of fun stuff. You get a welcome letter from me. You get some pictures from Mick. You get everything in Patreon except for Joe. No, we get Joe. We don't get Joe with Back to Ringside though. But you get more Joe. You get more Joe with pinfall.
Hold on. You're trying to convince people to spend money. Don't be including my name in on it. They're going to lose people.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Well, maybe if we lowered it to $3.99 a month, if we had Chupik on,
that's still too high. I got to pay them to become members, I think.
You're right. Oh, by the way, those Happy Humphrey shorts from my junior high days, there was small, medium, large, XL, double X, and sleep 17, and that's the size that I wore.